Good morning, everyone. I am live. Finally, I will build an audience. Good morning to the guests in the waiting room. You'll be on in about 5 minutes. It's good to see. It's good to see everybody on this 2021. Happy New Year! Happy New Year to you. This is Sean Brown. I'm the Urban Disruptor, and this is Urban Disruptor's weekly wrap up. And this morning, I'm so excited to have the guests that I have today. Our guests are Frader, who will, I'm sure, correct me in the pronunciation of her name. She's been a journalist for many years and has been with the Courier Post since 2015. Covering Camden since 2015 for the Courier Post, is with the Courier Post before that. And Stephen Rodas has been covering Camden on behalf of Tap Into for about a year. And both of them cover Camden more than anyone else. Before we do that, I will give some updates on just some news that's going on. I'm a little bit late this morning. There are a couple of issues that we're working on, but I want to start with just wishing everyone a happy New Year, a great 2021. I hope your year is off to a great start. I got my January 1st started right. I didn't drink too much early in the morning. I had a planning meeting with some of my friends that were also great professional colleagues as we planned our lives and what we want to do in 2021, using a system, using a process in place to figure out the steps that we need to take in order to accomplish our goals and identify the habits in which we need to accomplish those goals. I also was able to meet with my personal trainer for the first time on January 1st. I was doing sit-ups and push-ups and what's this thing called when you're I forget what it's called. I guess I need more training to get myself in shape because I want to be strong, have a flat stomach, and be able to have both mental strength and physical strength as we get into 2021, because it's going to be so much going on this year. I want to start with some news and some updates for everybody. We want to start with, there's a boxer from Camden who won. I'm going to put the notes. I'll put the article here in the notes from ESPN. But obviously, this is an extremely talented community, and we have people that do amazing things in our city. The name of the boxer is Raymond Savage Ford. Raymond Savage Ford, he's 21 years old. You can read the article in the comments, but he won a boxing match a few weeks ago. So I just want to wish him congratulations on that. There is another story, which I also put in the comments, that Haltech, which is down at the end of Morgan Boulevard and the end of Broadway here in Camden, received a $147 million grant to develop a small nuclear reactor. Some of you may know some folks that work at Haltech or have worked at Haltech. They build nuclear reactors. That's what they do. This is an industry that is heavily regulated by the government. This was a story that was reported in KYW News Radio, and link is in the notes as well. I'm not going to be able to get into all of the news, but just another story. There was multiple stories about the New Jersey Attorney General updating the use of force policy for the entire state. So now every single police department has to follow a use of force policy. Use of force means use of physical force. When can an officer hit you with a baton? When can they punch you in the face? When can they take their gun out and shoot you? What are the rules that dictate when that happens? Camden has been a leader in this in both the county, the state, and the nation for many years. And I know some people would say that the police department has far to go, and it does. But Camden has also outpaced almost every other police department in this regard, and has actually been a model that the New Jersey Attorney General used. With that said, There is also a new chief in town who started yesterday. Phaedra, who is a guest today, interviewed the chief. It's a really, really good article. Which when I speak with her, I'll put it in the notes. I will. I wish Captain Gabe Rodriguez. I've known him for a few years. He's now chief. He's now the chief of the Camden County Police Department. We wish him happiness and success in his role. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on, but I am going to, for right now, just bring on our first guest, and hopefully soon to be two guests. Now, Phaedra, if you're ready, you're about to come on. And I'm so excited to have with us there you go. I'm so excited to have with us this morning, Frader Trethan. Phaedra, can you just say something real quick so I can make sure I can hear you?
Good morning, Sean. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And I hear you loud and clear. Thank you for hanging out and waiting in the waiting room. I hope this year so far has been giving you joy and pleasure. How are you doing? How are you feeling? How's your family?
Everybody is very well, thank you. And just looking forward to it not being 2020 anymore, and hopefully, vaccines start rolling out and people get healthier and things can start to approach normal again. I think that's what we're all hoping for.
Yes. So I want to get started. I hope to have you and Stephen on. He's not on yet. I'm going to text him in a second, but I just want to get started and say that I've known you as a journalist that covers Camden, and you are. I see over the years. I see you at events, see you at meetings, covering things. But I've also seen you be a part of the work that Free Press does, where they have brought journalists and community leaders together to get more stories, more sources from Camden, but also to focus on some of the positive things and uplifting things we have going on in our city. There's obviously plenty of there's murder, there's corruption, there's crime, but that's not the full story of who we are by far. We're also a creative community, an interesting place. A lot of stuff is going on, community organizations, a lot of things going on with government, and I think that you do a great job of covering those things in a fair and, I want to say fair and balanced, I don't know if that's the best phrase, but a fair and balanced way, and also bringing humanity to the stories, also with some excellent prose as well. So I know I've told you this before, but I just wanted to make sure I say it again.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Sean.
So I just want to get into it, and if you say what it is, I'll pull it up. But what have been some of your favorite stories that you reported on in 2020 as we look back on the past year?
A lot of my favorite stories have to do with people who have tried to help the community, help make life better. Some of them are, in big, grand ways, but some of them are in smaller ways, just trying to make their little corner of the world better. So, there was a Pennsauken woman who had grown up in Camden who started a charity where she collects shoes for kids and distributes them in schools. There was another story about early interventionists who work with special needs kids and how they were coping with the pandemic. And that was one of my favorite stories because I had been doing so much reporting from my dining room table and so much virtual journalism, which is not a good way to do journalism. It's not at all the ideal way to do what we do. But when I got to work on this story, I actually got to go out and see this therapist at work. And the little boy that she worked with was just so happy. He was about 2 years old, and he was just so joyful to see. And that was one of my favorites, just because it was nice to get out and see happy people for once, and especially happy kids. I'm a mom, so I have a soft spot, obviously, for kids. Not that it takes being a mom to do that, but. And another favorite story was I've seen firsthand the work that family operations coordinators do in city schools. And early in the pandemic, the school budgets were getting just hammered, and that's all over the state, but that's a particular problem in Camden. And the school district thought they were going to have to lay off a lot of people, but they found a way to keep family operations coordinators. So I was able to talk to some of them, and also to talk to some students and parents and administrators about the difference that they make in city schools. I think a lot of kids in Camden deal with challenges that are kind of above and beyond what suburban school students deal with. And so it was good to see that those people who do such important work, and they do it quietly, they do it every day, they do it without a lot of fanfare, but it was good to see them keep their jobs.
And I'm just curious, just on that point, how do you find these stories? Is this press releases or relationships?
It's a combination. I try mostly to go on relationships. Press releases tend to be controlled by the person who's giving the message. So a press release is distributed by, say, a hospital system or a police department or a government entity or something like that. So they're the ones who are going to control the narrative. They're the ones who are going to say, here's who you should talk to. And of course, they're only going to recommend people who are going to talk about what they want to hear. So I try to go more on relationships, and that's partly relationships with people in the community reaching out to me and saying, this is something you should pay attention to. It's also, I belong to a number of Camden Facebook pages. You guys have probably seen me posting stuff in a lot of the Camden Facebook pages. I watch those pages to see what people are talking about. And when I see that there's people talking about something, I try to find a way to write about it so that other people might be talking about it, people who aren't necessarily on Facebook or on social media, or to try to bring some context to something that is happening on social media where people say, we don't know what's happening here, but I'm in a position to get those answers. And so I try to do that.
So I'm gonna just real quick, I want to just scroll through and look at some of the your self-identified year in review: history, heartache, and hope in South Jersey and beyond. So here we go, starting in January. And look at that, Lieutenant Gabe Rodriguez.
Yeah, there's Gabe Rodriguez.
And you can see more stories. I just encourage people that who maybe haven't looked at this to look. Here is Resilient Roots Farm in Camden. That's over in East Camden. I think a lot of people may not even know that's there. So Filipino cuisine.
Yeah, I'm part Filipino, so
okay.
That was really that was a fun story to work on, because I got to get in touch a little bit more with my roots and find out a little bit more about Filipino cuisine. There's a surprising amount of it to be found in South Jersey, and it's really good. It's a kind of, if you have a lot of Hispanic listeners, there's a lot of commonality between Filipino cuisine and Hispanic cuisine, which is really interesting.
Okay.
The Philippines were colonized by Spain, so that has a lot to do with it.
Right. So I put this article in the chat, in the comments already. Father Gerard, I know his last name was Marable.
Yeah, everybody calls him Father Gerard. That's how everybody knows him.
But you can just see some just really interesting stories of things that happened throughout the year. A reminder to us of what the importance is of journalists and telling stories about what's going on in our communities, because as individuals, we can't be everywhere. There's Eric Montgomery with some Camden folks. I love the photos from this story. Really stuck out to me too.
Yeah, that was Joe Lamberti, who's a really good photographer for us.
Okay, yeah, they were great. Oh, look at that record! Look at that, the Rising Leaders Skate Club. Yes. I'm familiar with this.
Yeah, certainly one of my favorites.
And right here at Dare Academy, that's actually my grill right there. I made it to the picture. It was my grill, it's not anymore. There's Tone Henshaw. This is right here behind where I'm sitting right now here at Dare. What a year for prisoner. There was criminal justice reform, but also a lot of people were sent home due to COVID, and it's really good to see that population is being covered, because it's so many people and has a huge impact on families,
Yeah.
and things that happen. Mighty Writers, another great organization in Camden, their food giveaway. And this is the shoe story that you talked about. I put this article
Yeah.
in the comments already. And here's your last one. Or maybe this is the last one. So I encourage people to, to take a look at this, to see, just to read up on things that are happening in our community. I'm going to stop the screen share, and then you get to my next question. So Phaedra, in 2021, this year, we will have an election for mayor and council. As the person for the Courier Post who covers Camden the most, do you have any thoughts on how you can include power dynamics and the strange power dynamics that exist in Camden into that reporting?
Yeah, that's always a challenge because there are a ton of people who will talk off the record about power dynamics in Camden. There are not a lot of people who will go on the record, and we have a policy against using anonymous sources unless it's to protect someone's safety.
Okay.
Or protect someone's privacy for some really compelling reason. For example, I have used anonymous sources when I've talked to undocumented immigrants, or I have used anonymous sources when I'm talking to people who are in active addiction because, or women who have been victims of domestic violence. All of those, you can kind of see the obvious reasons for using anonymity. With a politician or a political operative who just doesn't want to get themselves in trouble with their boss, to me, that's not necessarily a compelling enough reason to keep them anonymous. Or somebody who wants to say something unpopular, but they're worried that they're going to get blowback. To me, that's not necessarily enough of a reason to give them anonymity. So I have to be really careful. But I also think most Camden and even South Jersey readers have been familiar enough with the dynamics in Camden to know the primary is where the election happens.
Right.
In Camden. The general election, by the time that rolls around, there's been a Democratic candidate who's chosen, and that person is almost always, pretty much always, the person who ends up elected. There's really not much of a Republican presence in the city of Camden. There is some Republican presence in the county, but that too is pretty negligible. They just don't get a lot of traction here. So I think, and we all know who the power brokers are here. We know that George Norcross is a big part of the a big part of the power structure here. I think sometimes people might give him a little too much credit or blame or whatever. But I also know, I'm a realist. I know that he is someone who, puts his backing, and his backing is strong. His backing comes with money and it comes with resources. And those are two things that every politician needs.
Right. On this show, I show how candidates, I pulled up before the elect reports to show where candidates raise their money from. And what you see is that anyone that's elected office in Camden, almost all of the money came from outside of Camden. And in fact, the money wasn't donated to the candidate directly. It was often donated to state level candidates like the state senator, the state assemblyman, and then they donate money to the people on the local level, which means that the council person, the mayor, is financially locked in with the people that work on the state level. And as you said, it's a very small group of people who even select who the candidates are that are endorsed by the Democratic Party, which I would say, it depends on what I talk to. Some people say it's like this everywhere. Some people say it's very unusual. I lean more towards the unusual, or maybe unacceptable is the best word. But let me say that every single thing I'm able to talk about on my show, Urban Disruptors Weekly Wrap Up, with the very few exceptions, is coming from me reading the Courier Post, tap into Philadelphia Inquirer, NJ.com on a regular basis, and then pulling or selecting those stories, which I want to share with my viewing audience, which matter. So every day you do something it's folks I try to have it carry, and seeing your articles in those groups is also really helpful. And seeing the feedback, like seeing the comments that people make and things. Some of these people, they may not ever know who you are, but the words that you write definitely can impact the decisions that they make every day.
I hope so. I hope some of my work resonates not just with ordinary people. I hope it educates ordinary people, so that they're informed, so that they know that they can participate, so that they do participate, and when they do participate, they know how to or in what manner they want to. It gives them the tools, I hope, and I also hope, in some way maybe it moves some people in power sometimes.
Right.
I don't know that it always does, but I think sometimes it does. Sometimes just shining a light on something and getting people, showing people here's a wrong that needs to be righted, or here's a problem that needs to be fixed, or here's something you've been ignoring or trying to ignore, but we're not going to ignore it, does spur some action.
Well, the best example of that is, I talked about this in my June rant where I was driving around the city. The article that you wrote about Camden Works and the jobs, and well, at the time, the lack of a jobs program that was promised, it's because of the critique that the city got. Folks did work on creating a program, Camden Works, which is, I would say, it's a very good program that Cooper's Ferry runs. But I would go as far as say there would be no CamdenWorks.com if you didn't write that article after the mayor made that promise, after Dr. Singh and Haltech made those insulting comments about the Camden workforce. There was all this action and talk and promises. Those things didn't deliver. The mayor, Vince, had multiple times to address it. And the article made that clear, and they really didn't. But when the article came out, people said, you know what, we got to do something about this, and it happened.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. Another example from a few years ago was with the needle exchange in Camden.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
City officials, I mean, it had gotten shut down when Holtec was built, because that's where it was located. It was located where Holtec was built, and they shut it down and were kind of dragging their feet on restarting it, and giving Martha Chavis, who runs Camden AHEC, and who a lot of people in the city know because she's been there forever. They really were dragging their feet on giving her the go-ahead and giving her a spot. And, addiction it's a really difficult problem in Camden, because I know a lot of people who live there see most of the people who are in active addiction right now in Camden don't come from Camden. They're coming from other places.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who live in Camden have to live with that every day. They have to live with spent needles and paraphernalia, and they have to live with trash, and they have to live with homeless encampments. And nobody, that's something that wouldn't be tolerated in other cities, but it somehow happens in Camden, and that's not right.
Right.
But getting the needle exchange going, there are some who argue that it would enable people to remain in addiction, but it is also a way for outreach workers to check the health of the people who are in active addiction, a way for them to introduce the idea of treatment to them, a way to connect them to treatment. So it does work sometimes.
So for those that don't know, I'm often in meetings where people want to get media coverage. When it comes to government meetings, events, programs, special things that are happening, things that are newsworthy, a controversy, what's the best way for people to, whether it's for you or any other journalist, what's the best way for people to get press coverage?
The best way for people to get press coverage, there are a lot of different ways. Reach out to me directly. I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. You can reach out to me in any of those ways. At the bottom of all of my articles is my phone number in the office and my email address and my Twitter handle. So you can feel free to reach out in any of those ways. We have a general Courier Post mail address, but I generally tell people, even if it's something you think I won't cover, but somebody else might cover it. So for example, it's not something happening in the city of Camden, but it's something you still find newsworthy. Maybe one of my colleagues might want to do it, or it's more of an entertainment story or something that's a little bit different. Still reach out to me and I'll try to connect you with the person at the Courier Post who might write it. Another thing that happened over the last year is our company got acquired by another media conglomerate, and we merged with the Burlington County Times. So we now have the Burlington County Times, the Courier Post, and the Daily Journal down in Vineland, all under one sort of umbrella newsroom. So if there's something happening in Cumberland County that you think is newsworthy, I can connect you with somebody down there. If there's something happening in Burlington County, I can.
So wait, what happened to the Cherry Hill office?
Well, it still exists. The Cherry Hill office still exists. Most of us right now, because of the pandemic, are working from home.
Okay.
But we still have the Cherry Hill office. We're still printing out of that office. And pretty soon we're going to be printing the Philadelphia Inquirer as well. That was a deal that was announced, I want to say, in the summer or fall.
That makes distribution easier for them?
It probably makes it cheaper for them because they had a gigantic printing plant out in Conshohocken. And what's happening with a lot of newspapers is fewer and fewer people are getting a physical newspaper delivered to their front step. And there are more people who are getting digital subscriptions. And frankly, unfortunately, there are more people who are not subscribing at all, who are just not getting their news from newspapers or traditional news outlets. So with the Courier Post and the Inquirer and the Burlington County Times, all of us are selling fewer papers, which means we have to print fewer papers, which means these gigantic printing operations aren't as necessary as they were when, we had circulations of 100,000, or in the case of the Inquirer, close to 1 million. So they consolidate them and they look for cheaper ways to do it. And one cheaper way to do it is closing down their own printing plant and depending on us.
Okay. So you said you're home, you're working from home. How has the pandemic influenced you and as a journalist, and you think journalism overall? So, and just before you answer that, I know I've been in way more virtual meetings than I would have previously. Looking at school board meetings in particular, the amount of people that participate on those meetings is way more than how many people showed up. So I think that there are some disadvantages, but also some advantages that changes how we communicate and how we get information.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I mean, from a journalistic standpoint, it's difficult because we thrive on face-to-face interactions. It's a lot easier to gauge there are a lot of intangibles that you can gauge in person that you can't gauge over the phone or even on a Zoom meeting. There are a lot of things that you can take in when you're sitting in somebody's living room versus just talking to them on the phone. Or if you're at a meeting, a school board meeting or a council meeting or a public event, if you're standing next to the mayor and his spokesman and, council people, and you can overhear the conversations that they're having among themselves, you can get a better glimpse of what they're really like, as opposed to them sending out a press release where you can't really always ask follow-up questions, or you're not hearing that real-time interaction. A lot of times I'll have a conversation with somebody that is a really impromptu conversation at a public event or a meeting or whatever, and that will spur another story idea. And I'll say to them, it's something that it might not have occurred to them as being interesting, but it occurs to me as being interesting. So that's sort of lost, which is difficult. But in terms of virtual meetings, I think that is a huge advantage and something I would really like to see continue if possible, because like you mentioned, school board meetings, there's a lot more people who can participate. People don't go to school board meetings and council meetings because they have families to feed and they have children to babysit and they have to make sure that they're parenting and they have to make sure that they're present for the people in their lives. But if they can fire up the laptop while they're making dinner and pay attention to what's going on at the school board meeting at the same time, that opens up a huge amount of participation that people never had the ability to do before. And I think that's really important. I think the more people who are paying attention to what's going on in their city council meetings and in their school board meetings, and whether that's Camden or Audubon or anywhere, I think that's really important.
All right. And then how, for people that want to share stories. I mean, I know I'm in the process of working with Dodge Foundation and Free Press on a project I'm working on to make sure there are more ways to share stories and get content out. But what do you suggest as ways for people to share information that they might find beneficial to their friends and family?
Well, social media. Social media takes a lot of knocks, and a lot of them are deserved. But for me, social media is more of a tool. I don't, Sean, you and I are friends on Facebook. I don't put a ton of personal stuff out there, but I do put a lot of professional stuff out there. So I think that's a great way to share things with people. I also think, I'm going to do a little kind of shameless plug here, but say to people, I subscribe to the Courier Post, or I read Tap Into on a regular basis, or I get the Inquirer. Here's why you should do it too. Because journalism is really at a critical point right now. And I tell everybody, even though print subscriptions pay the bulk of our bills right now, what we really need are digital subscriptions. And you get a ton more with a digital subscription than you do with a print subscription. When you have a print subscription, you're kind of told, here's what we think is important and here's what we think you should read, because that's what fits in our newspaper. With a digital subscription, there's so much more content that we can put online. There's so much more that you get, and you get videos, and you get photo galleries, and you get access to other newspapers' work if you subscribe, for example, to the Courier Post, because we are part of a whole network that includes USA Today, it includes the Asbury Park Press, it includes the Bergen Record, which is northjersey.com. So you get a wider perspective as well.
So I'm thinking of this year, legalization of recreational marijuana. Mm-hmm. We'll be electing, there'll be an election for governor as well this year. There'll be election for certain state legislature positions this year. I already mentioned mayor and council will also be voting on this year. We have to see what the influence of the vaccine is on the pandemic. There are now reports that there is a mutated virus that's been discovered in Colorado and a few other places that might be a game changer here in the United States this year. Last year, there were reports that there's growing evidence of aliens. I'm not making this up. Look it up. So I think and I'm sure. I don't know if the Summer Olympics were they. I don't remember if they were rescheduled to be in the summer of 2021. I mean, I know they were canceled, but there's a lot going on, and as sometimes people say, because I have this show, Frader, that I'm a journalist, and I would say I'm not a journalist. I'm a commentator. I'm a pundit. Although some of that is in common because I am sharing information with an audience, so I do have a responsibility to be accurate. But I say all this to say, you are one of our main storytellers in our community. What do you look forward to in 2021?
I probably most look forward to the vaccine. I mean, I think everybody's looking forward most to that. We have in-laws that my daughter hasn't been able to hug for months. We went over to my mom's house and my in-laws' house on Christmas and kept our masks on and, exchanged gifts. And that was it. There was no dinner. There was no fun. There was no, it was just a really quick kind of, we're visiting because it's Christmas Day and you have Christmas presents and we have Christmas presents. And, but it felt really different. And I think that's the truth for a lot of families. I also feel for the families who have lost people, because I know that far too many people in Camden have lost loved ones to COVID. Right. And if not, or have gotten sick themselves, or have seen people that they love get sick and had to worry about that. I know far too many people have lost their jobs and their livelihoods, and um, I'm looking forward to normal because of that. I'm looking forward to everybody being able to go back to work, to go back to seeing their families and interacting with their support networks in a personal way, because I know that that's really crucially important everywhere. And it's especially important in Camden, where a lot of people rely on, it's a city, so people rely on each other. People rely on their friends and their neighbors and their extended families. That's just how any city works. So I know that that's something I'm looking forward to most. And I'm also looking forward to just seeing people gather again in a safe way. Because, like I mentioned, it's really hard to do this job from the telephone. It's really hard to do this job from 6 feet. You have to get up close with people. And I'm looking forward to being close to people and overhearing them whispering to each other and saying, "Oh, that's interesting what you just said there." And that's not something I can do from 6 feet away.
Right. I mean, I completely agree. I would say, first, let me get into the comments real quick. Carmen Uberry, a frequent listener, said, based on what Phaedra Trethan said, I will be sure to sign up for my Courier Post digital subscription today. So there you go. You got it. You got another person signing up. I'm just waiting for some people owe me money. As soon as I get all the money, I will be signing up as well. I get tired of seeing the paywall every time I see an interesting story. What was that? Oh, I know I was going to tell you. Yeah. So just on your point about being present, years ago, there was I think it was a planning board meeting for something controversial that was coming to Camden. And the lawyer that was representing the group that we did not want to come into Camden, it was, I actually remember what it was the methadone clinic. We had a strategy. So I sat next to him as he was preparing his notes. I sat next to him and just like whispered in his ear, "Oh, you're about to go up and defend this? How could you defend a group like that? Do you know how this is going to destroy Camden? What kind of person are you? Is this the kind of lawyer you are?" And it was a little mean, but it was part of the tactic. And then the guy gets up and he's fumbling through his notes, and I did the point of distracting him. I can't do that through Zoom. And I also like being able to see journalists and just even if it's sometimes those 2-minute conversations are so powerful of saying, "Hey, this is going on. That guy over there is pretty interesting." Yes, I agree with you. I missed that too. So I want to, Phaedra, I want you to have a great year. I want you to keep doing what you're doing. I want to say I thank you for being present in our community, for caring enough to be a really relationship builder. You have a really good, you have a great memory. I know for a fact many people over the years, the last few years, have contacted you about stories that you have written for tens and not hundreds of thousands of people to see. Every time I'm in Wawa or the few places I actually get to go now, normally grocery stores, I'm always turning right and looking at those newspapers that are there. When I see somebody I know on the cover, I do buy them to make sure that the person I know gets that copy, and I try to teach them how to frame it so that they can have that up, because there's a difference between me telling the story as like a guy that lives here with this little Facebook page, and you as a trained, formal, professional journalist with that beautiful old style font on top of the paper, with your name as the byline telling the story. And it's critical to us improving our communities. There's something in politics, there's something that they call the media the fourth estate, which is a way of saying that you have the 3 branches of government, but then the branch that holds all of them accountable ultimately is a free and open press, which in our community, I think you do a great job of representing. So I just wanted to share that. I just want to share that with you.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Do you have any advice or feedback for me?
I keep doing what you're doing too, because I know you've been an advocate for your hometown for many, many years, and you've been a trusted source for me as well. And you're somebody who, when I need to know the real story and and I want to get it unfiltered, I have a group of about a dozen or so people that I know I can call on, and they will give me everything straight. you're
Right.
definitely near the top of that list.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So I don't know about you, but I'm hungry. I haven't had breakfast yet. So
Me either.
okay, well, go get some. Thank you so much, Phaedra, for being a guest. Is there anything that you want to say that you haven't had a chance to say yet?
I don't think so. I mean, I want to give props to other journalists who cover Camden. Steve from Tap Into does a terrific job. He has kind of a different mission than me. My mission is kind of to look at the bigger picture, but he's the one who goes to all of the little meetings, and he's the one who pays attention and reads every single public notice. And there's definitely a real tangible value to that kind of journalism. It's not easy, and I know Steve works his what off.
Right.
So I want to give a shout out to him. And I also want to give a shout out to April Saul. I know there are a lot of people in the city who, have different opinions of her, but she's a friend and a colleague. And I think she does a good job trying to document, especially in photography, the humanity of the city, and trying to let people know that this is this is a place filled with vibrant, creative, intelligent, passionate people.
Right. I appreciate you saying that, and I agree. Yeah. April has annoyed me once or twice, but there are a few stories that she wrote, and I'm like, well, damn, if she didn't write that story, I'm not sure if anybody would even know that particular thing is going on.
Absolutely.
And for you, that I'm really glad you did an interview with Gabe, now Chief Rodriguez. That was a great interview. I learned a lot about him that I would not have known. Some of those quotes were fantastic. Oh yeah, and another thing. That article that you did about, what was it about? What was actually, because the part that sticks out is Keith Benson's quote. But the quote that you have of Keith Benson, the CEA of the Teachers Union, that traveled.
Yeah,
Keith is behind the scenes.
Keith is also on my unfiltered source list.
Yes.
He will give it to me straight, and he's a quotable guy. He's
right. His version of straight, but yeah.
Okay. He's very quotable, and he's there are people who will say to me, why did you talk to him? He clearly has an agenda. But my argument is he also has an office. He is the head of the teachers union in Camden. So while he may have an agenda, I'm never shy about pointing out, listen, he's the head of a union. So of course he has an agenda. He's supposed to. That's his job.
I have an agenda, and you don't have an agenda. I have an agenda. There's certain people who could kill somebody this morning, and I won't talk about it on here because that person is a close friend of mine, and I'm just not going to treat a friend like that. And I don't need to. You have a different standard, a much higher standard, which I think you do well. I don't know if I told you this before, but I probably did. But what's his name? I probably shouldn't even say his name in this. But a guy that used to cover Camden for the Courier Post. He wrote a few, and this when I was on the school board, and after he wrote a few stories that had me scratching my head, wondering how it even passed the editor's desk and was able to be published the way it was. And I didn't have that feeling about a lot of journalists, but it made me appreciate the people who get it right more. So, all right, enough kudos. Enough kudos. All right, Phaedra, have a great day. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
You too. Thank you for having me, Sean. Take care. Right. Happy New Year.
Thank you too. I'm gonna all right, so now it's just us. There are a few things I want to share with you, and this being the first Sunday in January. This is actually my anniversary episode because I started in the first Sunday of 2020. I'm gonna be really honest with you. I did not sleep well last night. I have a slight headache. My insomnia seems to have returned, but I am here. I did start a little bit late, but I am here. And there are a few things I want to share about 2021 that I think are important. First, I thought it was important to start this year off talking directly to the journalist. I'm sorry that Stephen wasn't able to be here today. That sometimes happens with guests, but I wanted to be able to start off by just looking at all the things that we've gone through in 2020 and what we'll do in 2021. Stephen is actually writing an article that will come out next week about the year ahead and some things that we can expect and look at from what he told me a few days ago. So I look forward to having him. But there are a few things I want to mention. The first thing is, as you know, there is an election for mayor coming up. I got a lot of feedback from the list that I put up of who may run for mayor. And what a lot of people said to me is that they're not impressed by the list. Now, I know all of these people. I know their strengths. I know some of their weaknesses. I understand their ambitions, and I know that that list may not be accurate, that I may put a name on that list if somebody's like, I have no intention of running for mayor. But the fact that they have put themselves in position, either by being on council or by their advocacy or by things they said out loud, I thought it was appropriate to share who the possibilities are. Here's the thing. When I looked at the numbers from 2020 general election, what I saw was how many people who ran against the Democratic Party didn't even come close. They didn't even come close. Elton Custis is the only person in the last over 10 years who has ran outside of the endorsement of the party and won. And he was able to do that in an odd year in 2019 when there was no governor or there was no governor at the top of the ticket or president at the top of the ticket. So that was in many ways, you only get that type of election every 4 years. And when Elton runs again, he'll be running in 2022 because it's a 3-year seat. So when he runs, there will be a congressional election in the year that he runs in the Senate election in 2022. So it'll be a different type of election and it will draw more people out to vote. I want to be very clear on what I learned from analyzing the data from 2021. And it painted such a bleak picture for a certain strategy that I didn't do what I said I was going to do, which was to share it with everybody, because I think it just looking at it almost made me sad. Let me tell you why. I like Frank Moran as a person, usually. He's funny, he's polite, he's respectful. He gives good, when he wants to, can give good advice. As far as I see with my own 2 eyes and what I hear, he's a good husband to his wife. He's a good father to his children. But when it comes to addressing some of the biggest issues in our city, and I've said this plenty of times before, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in Mayor Moran. I'm disappointed in Mayor Moran. I'm disappointed in Angela, his chief of staff. I'm disappointed in Vince, his communications person. I'm disappointed in some of the people that work on his staff that don't seem to have certain systems in place to be able to get certain things done. When you look at the biggest issues in our city, public safety, economic development, public education, environmental issues, youth development, Frank is not really around a lot. I don't know what his opinion is on many of these issues. He's not that present. And when he does, he rides up, he gives his speech, he shakes a few hands, he takes a few pictures, and he's out. When people call him, I've called him myself. I've emailed myself, and I have gotten responses. So I don't want to pretend like he never responds. But that's few and far between, and many times that I think that he should be more present, or if not the mayor himself, he should be able to rely on his team, his business administrator, Jason, and other people in his team to step up and do more to deal with the biggest issues we have in our community. We remain one of the poorest cities in America. We remain one of the cities has the lowest credit score on average of any other city in America. We remain one of the cities has the most violence in America. And even when our numbers seem to go down, they're only going down a little bit based compared to previous years. We have an entire financial underground market fueled by the selling of narcotics in our city: cocaine, pills, heroin, wet. And the public safety strategy is that our police department will somehow be able to fix it. Well, what's now Chief Rodriguez going to be able to do when police are usually responding to crime after somebody is called 911? Why do we have this expectation? You know, people say defund the police. The wisdom in that is that if the police have less money, the money will should be diverted to organizations which are better poised to deal with the issues and which led to crime to begin with. There's nothing controversial about that. The police agree with this. When I have an emergency, when I think somebody breaks into my house or into my car, when I look across the street and I see somebody getting beat up, I'm calling 911 and I want the police to show up quickly. and deal with that issue. But the humanitarian in me wants to have to avoid issues like this, where there is an economic system in place where if a person wants a job, he or she can get a job. It is not up to the mayor or council to deal with all of these issues, but they do have a role in it. Now, the 3 seats that are up for city council this year are City Council President Curtis Jenkins, City Council Member Angel Fuentes, and City Council Member Sheila Davis. And I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about these 3 people. Right now, Council President Curtis Jenkins works for the South Jersey Port Corporation. It is a quasi-governmental agency. He used to run Local 222 in Union, which collapsed and combined with another union. He now works for South Jersey Port Corporation. Councilman Jenkins is in his, I believe, early 60s. He has been on council since the mid 2000s. Previous to that, he was on. He had a short time on the school board. Curtis Jenkins is related to a lot of us in one way or another. He has a big family. His family is in the last few years faced some tragedy. He's the president of city council. See, he sets the agenda. He sets the policies by which council does things. He works with the lawyer and the business administrator more than anyone else. Sheila Davis. Sheila Davis is probably the most popular of all the city council members because she shows up. She's present. You invite her to something, and if she can be there, she's there. If she can share something on social media, she does it. If she can show you love on social media or with a phone call or a text message, she's there to do it. When it comes to dealing with some of these issues, Sheila Davis has ideas. Angel Fuentes has been around longer than any of them. I went to my first city council meeting back when I was a young man, either 18 or 19 in the year 2001. And he was the president of city council then, almost 20 years ago now. Angel Fuentes is friendly. He too shows up to certain things. He's accessible. I call him every once in a while. He answers the phone. But the way we must judge all 3 of these people is not only based off of their personality, but how have they used their position on council to uplift our community? And how have they shown a political savviness of determining that even though politics in Camden is weird, it's still worth figuring out how to get things done? That's the first part. The next part, and I'm gonna actually bring this up and show you guys this. Next part is how do people get to run for office to begin with? So in Camden, we have a committee structure where there are 20 men and women who are elected to office as committee members. And I'm going to show you in a moment. I'm going to show you exactly who these folks are. You might have to give me a moment to pull it up. But I can be a member. I'm not, but let's say Sean Brown is. I could be a member of the Camden City Democratic Committee. As a member of the Camden City Democratic Committee, my job is to, in part, endorse candidates as Democrats for the Democratic Party. These people that are endorsed then get the support of the entire Democratic Party, from the county chairman and county level officials to local officials and the other people who are committee people as well, who are supposed to then knock on doors, make phone calls, get their friends and family to vote for whoever has been selected as candidates for the position. The problem with that is in the city of Camden is that system is completely violated. It's not a secret. This is something all of us know. Ask any of the committee members. There's one in particular that wears a jacket that shows off that he's a committee member. Go ask him, how many meetings have you been invited to as a committee person? When did you get invited to that meeting, by the way? Did you get invited 2 weeks in advance, or was it the night before and you were told that you better show up? Come on, guys. I like the people that have been elected to the school board, Clayton, Clayton in the last election, Karen in the last election, Folio, Nye. I like these people a lot. These are good, decent people. They work really, really hard to do the right thing on a regular basis. School board candidates in particular, city council candidates, city council probably learned a little bit from the school board candidates, because I think that I would like to see a little bit more from city council than what I see in terms of how they use their legislative powers to address the issues that we have. I'm going to pull up these names for you so that you can see who they are. I don't have my laptop here, so I have to find it on my computer. We have to do better. Our politics has to be better. If you are a committee person, if you have a position of power, and I'm talking to the chair people, Angel Fuentes, Frank Moran, Curtis Jenkins, Ian Leonard, Chris Collins, Marilyn Torres, Nilsa Cruz Perez, the people at the top of our elected leadership have a responsibility to get better candidates, better policies, so that we can have a better city. That's what the Urban Disruptor is all about. I'm not here to hurt your feelings, to make you look bad, to embarrass you. But at the end of the day, we're in the middle of a pandemic. At the end of the day, we are poor. There is crime. There is trash. There is abandonment. And we and the elected officials cannot continue to outsource the responsibility of these things to Cooper's Ferry, to community development corporations like PBCIP or Heart of Camden. We can't let ineffective, inept leaders lead some of these agencies and commissions that we have here in the city. Look at the leadership of the Housing Authority. Look at the leadership of the Parking Authority. Look at their minutes online. The decisions that are made, the way money is spent and flows throughout this city. We have brilliant people who love our community and work hard to see it be successful, but they're not enough. And they are working within a corrupted system that's been corrupted by money, that's been corrupted by white supremacy, and been corrupted by apathy that we overall as a community have of not caring enough to attack this system, which is not good enough for where we need to be and who we need to be as a people. It's bad enough that we got Mitch McConnell in the US Senate. It's bad enough that Joe Biden, although he may be a Democrat and may do some good things, he is still an old white man who's still a part of a corrupted system. Our legislature in the state level passed marijuana legalization that was so weak, the governor didn't sign it, even though he has been the champion of legalized marijuana. There is something wrong with our politics. And in that wrongness with our politics, that means there are wrong things in our community, things that we haven't figured out yet that we should, because many times the answers are right in front of us for us to grab and do something powerful with. So it is my commitment to you that I will raise money for Urban Disruptors Weekly Wrap Up, that I will work with my WCMD family, including the founder, Anthony Ways, and a bigger team, that I will do these things in order to see how we can be better. I will continue to have relationships with journalists, with community leaders, with influencers, with young people. I'll continue to bring stories to you that the journalists have done first, so that you can know what it is. And I'm going to give you my opinion and put that in it and put that in it as well. I love this community. I don't really think I have any enemies. There are people I disagree with. this year, well, last year, 2020 is a year that the relationships were strong, they were built on solid foundations, presented themselves. The ones that were weak, they presented themselves too. So I want to be clear on the mayor thing. And I made a promise to pull up the committee names, and I am. You got to give me a second, but I want to be very clear on the mayor thing. I am determined that somebody decent is going to run for mayor. Somebody decent is going to run for mayor. Somebody who's going to deal with these issues is going to run for mayor. And some of you, and you know who you are, that have run for office before, you know you can't win. You can't win because you're not going to be able to raise enough money. You're not going to be able to get enough young people out to vote for you to have an election victory. Look at the difference between the school board candidates in 2020, the top three and the next person in fourth place, and you'll see thousands and thousands of vote difference that you can't make up for in a primary. You can't. So the friends and family, the neighbors of Theo Spencer, please tell this man, do not run. Yes, can you get, we saw when you ran for school board that you're able to get thousands of votes, but not even close enough to win. So all you're doing is taking votes away when there should be a two-person election. I have no idea who I'm going to support for mayor. I really don't. I have no clue. Because I get the sense that there's not going to be any great candidate that checks every box that I want to see checked. But it's crucial that we have decent people who can win. And not only win, but can do something once they get elected to office. Minister, Pastor Amir Khan, I love the work that you're doing with homeless people and addicts, downtown especially. But the question becomes, when your past mistakes come out again in the early part of you running for mayor, how are you going to answer these questions, these legitimate concerns and questions that people have? The thousands of people, the over 1,000 people that lined up for jobs that didn't exist over in State and River Road in 2013. How can you answer that? Maybe you can. How are you going to raise money, enough money to go to do mailings and get through the things that you know the party is going to do against you, Pastor Khan? This has nothing to do with how hard you work for your community. It has to do with, do you have the reputation? Do you have the ability to raise money? And do you have the likability to win? My political opinion is, no, you don't. But I've been wrong before. I didn't think that Minister Muhammad ran for the school board, got more votes by 1,000 than anybody else. That was not what I predicted. So you can't just go by my predictions. My insights are unique and special because of the place that I sit in politics in this city. Victor Karstarfin, Council Karstarfin of the 2nd Ward. You are a smart and capable man. You are a very good accountant. You're a very good businessman. You're educated. You have connections all over this city, all over this region, and the whole country. And if the rumors are true, and they may not be, you may be a candidate for mayor. I wish you happiness, success, and joy in that endeavor. But I also say this to you. Please have people who are knowledgeable, deeply rooted in public policy that you are tightly connected to. It's very important that people who understand the ins and outs of federal grants, state grants, of community programs, of the dynamics between the nonprofit community and municipal government, to understand the actual techniques and methods and models that which we must use in order to attack things like drug addiction in our community. The new health exchange that the state of New Jersey has. I think, you know what, and I'll leave it at that. I love this community, and I love the fact that people who are public servants have decided to step up. But we must check them, just as my friends and my family check me, to make sure that these are not acts of ego, but are acts of service to the community. I don't know who's going to run for mayor and council, but I know this. I know the decision can't just be made by a few folks, predominantly men, predominantly white, predominantly people who don't live in our city, cannot be the people who are making decisions in a Black and Latino majority community. We must be making these decisions. And if you're a committeeman or a committee woman and you were elected to that position, you have a responsibility to not accept a list of names that are presented to you by outsiders where you have no choice to pick this person or that person. You should be insulted by this process that we've used in Camden in the last decade. You shouldn't accept it. Right now in January is your time to say, before y'all start thinking about who you're going to endorse, give me some respect. Show me some respect as a committee person. Show me the respect of inviting me to a meeting, of asking for my opinion, of asking for my input. You don't have to accept a corrupted system. You don't. And if that means you need to resign in order to save face, then put your resignation in. I've seen decent people do it before. If that means you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, then hurt them. Because it's not about an individual sensitivity. It's about what we're doing for our community and how we use politics in a way that lifts our people and deals with the biggest issues. If you think this is the best that we can do, then give up. Because this is not the best that we can do. And I can prove it. I can prove it by showing you what Ras Baraka is doing in Newark, what Steve Pullip is doing in Jersey City, what Marty Smalls is doing over in Atlantic City. We can look at what Keisha Lance Bottoms is doing in Atlanta and go city after city of Black and Latino communities and see what good leadership does to fix the issues that have plagued us since Reconstruction, since slavery, since our ancestors were brought over here in ships, since somebody thought that the Latino and Black community should be divided instead of united. Our politics is a mess. Our leadership is not doing enough. And it's not any individual that needs to change. It's the system that must change. And it only changes by people who are closely in that so-called machine. The committee men and the committee women, the elected leaders, the school board members, the city council members, the mayor saying, we will not do this the same way in 2021 as we have in previous years. But as I say this, no matter how passionate I get, no matter how loud I get on this, I recognize that my words barely matter. Because at the end of the day, they're going to use that same old script of knocking on the doors of the senior citizens in the towers. They're going to play bingo. They're going to give out some stuff. And they're going to say, we're the real Democrats. Oh, don't listen to these other people in opposition now because we are the real Democrats here. Are you? Are you really? We have a great test upon our leadership this year. The legislature passed a new economic development bill. As far as I know, the governor hasn't signed it yet. He still has a week or two to sign it. I read the bill. I talked about this on a previous episode, and it looks really good. Is there some stuff in there I don't like? Absolutely. When Brendan McCoy of New Jersey Policy Perspective says that it's another freebies to corporations, I get his points. But there's a lot of stuff in there for small business development as well. There's a lot of stuff to empower some of our local organizations to have a bigger voice in what happens with economic development in our city. We as a community, but especially our elected leaders, must take advantage of this. The stimulus package just passed. In the next week or two, there will be new grants available for small businesses in our city. Are y'all going to continue to let Joe Thomas get away with going to work every day, making close to $90,000 a year and not doing anything? And why do some of you defend this? He's responsible for economic development. Joe Thomas is responsible for economic development in our city. You go ask Joe, and then go ask his boss, Ed Williams, and then go ask his boss, Jason, and then go ask his boss, Frank, and then go ask his boss, George. Why don't we have good economic development in our city? Where is it? Why is Cooper's Ferry doing more than city government? How does this make any sense? And I've talked to Joe. I'm sure he's going to have some, as soon as he gets off the golf course, I'm sure he's going to have some good excuses. He's going to say some stuff that probably makes sense to one or two people. But are we really going to believe that this is the best that we can do in our city? Go down Broadway. Go down Mount Ephraim Avenue. And look what a mess that is. And then go down Federal Street. And then go down River Road. Let me be blunt. Some of the Dominicans, Mexicans, and Puerto Ricans, they have figured this out. They know how to support people in their own communities. Some of them don't vote because they figured out they don't trust politics to insert into dealing with their issues. But many of us in the Black community seem to be just sitting back thinking that somebody's going to save us. Who is it that's going to save us? Curtis, the city council president? You think Willie Hunter at the parking authority, you think he's going to do something impressive for us? We got to do better. You need to hold all of these people accountable. You need to know their names, know how much money they make, read the minutes from the meetings, participate, ask questions. And you don't have to say anything about Sean Brown and the Urban Disruptors Weekly Wrap Up if you're one of the people that's watching this right now or in the future. But you got to hold these people accountable. You must. If you care enough about your community to watch a show like this, which is rooted in news and politics, then you have to follow that up with knowing who your elected and appointed officials are, the power that they hold, and hold them accountable to the promises that they made. Why am I reacting this way? I'm reacting this way because I know these young people that suffer. They can't get a job because they don't know how to get their ID. They'll walk around with toothaches because they don't know how to get access to a dentist. That fear that their only option to make the next dollar is by trapping on the streets and selling crack cocaine to their own people, continuing as a third generation of people who poisons their own community. I know them. I know their names. I know their stories. I know where they live. I know their struggles. I know the help that they ask me for. And I know how inadequate I feel because I'm not in a position to help them because I'm not a social worker. I'm not a psychiatrist, and I'm not in a position of power. But those that are must do better. That includes the Board of Social Services, county level. That includes Camden County College, county level. That includes Camden County One Stop, county level. That includes some of these nonprofit organizations, CCYD, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, Center for Family Services. What are you doing to lift our community? Are you doing things? Absolutely. Are you saving lives? Yes, you are. Is it enough? No, it is not. Can you do more? Yes, you can. We need to do more to support our grassroots organizations to make sure they have the capacity to raise money, to recruit, train volunteers, to have the right model of the right way to address these issues. This is the work that is upon us in 2021, to take the horror of 2020, the death, the sadness, the dire circumstances that many of us went through, which may continue throughout this winter and spring, and learn from it and build upon it to build a better 2021, to build a better family, to build a better community. I want to do a few things, but first I just want to address some of the comments. Carmen says the city committee is too machine heavy handed. You want change? Get some independent folks on there. Yes, agreed. Sheila Davis, our councilwoman, said good morning. She's watching. Good morning, Councilwoman Davis. Carmen Uberry again says, no matter how good the candidate may be, if she can't get that city committee in check, they're wasting their time and little bit of money. Now, on city committee, let me get this. Let me show y'all this list. You gotta just bear with me for a moment. It's worth the wait. Um, I'm going to pull this up in a moment. So while I'm pulling this up, if anybody has any questions, any comments about what's going on, if you don't want your comments to be online, you can send it to me. You can send it to me through. You can send it through to me through text. I'm gonna find this. I'm sorry I don't have it ready, but I think this just kind of hit me in 2021. How do we improve our politics? And I think the way we improve our politics is by making sure we understand what the roots of it are, so we can figure out what it is exactly that we need to fix and address. Um, uh, I'm gonna find this. I don't know why it's taking me so long. I promise I'll find it because I know I have it here in my email. I'm also cold in here. So, oh, by the way, does anybody have any New Year's resolutions? If so, that you want to share? Um, so please let me know, and you can let me know what your New Year's resolutions are. I will share a few with you as well. Thank you for waiting. I know I have this. I'm gonna be angry if I can't find this because I know it's here, just kind of waiting in my email. And what you're going to see on here is, oh, actually, you know what? There's something I wanted to tell you guys. I wanted to, as I look for this, there is something I wanted to mention to you. So as you may have seen the Dare Academy holiday special, and I don't know how it happened, but there was some confusion. The Camden, the holiday special we did at Dare Academy, wasn't it great, guys? Wasn't it wonderful? Our first time doing anything like this. It was. I was working with Naeem and a few other people behind the camera that day. Very stressful, but we got it done. But I want to be really clear that we had commercials, greetings, that we asked maybe 40 people to submit, and I think it was 20. I'm gonna say the number is 28. The number might be off a little bit, but everybody submitted a commercial. No one. That was not a sponsorship. That was, we asked you to send us holiday greetings as community leaders from all over the map, and people sent it. And if they sent it, then it got put in. I don't think that we missed any. So we had one sponsor, which was the Camden Education Fund, and we are glad to have them as a sponsor. And they're partners with their academy on a few other things, as they are with many other organizations in the city. But nobody tells Anthony Ways, Mahima Gillespie, me, or anybody else on the team what to do. We figure this stuff out ourselves, including on this show. Nobody's telling me what to say or what not to say. That's not the way this works. That's not what this platform is. And I make it clear when something's my opinion, I'll make that very clear. But I will also say that if we, as a nonprofit organization, as a place who is trying to make strides in this community and influence lives, if we're not trying to play nice in the sandbox with every group in position in power, we're not doing this right. If you think that we can, as an organization, as a facility, or even me as a person, that I can be successful by just starting up fights and wars with every single person I've ever disagreed with, then you're getting it wrong. In fact, I've probably done that too much already. I probably burnt too many bridges in the past already. Why would I want to continue to do that? And I'm 38 years old. So I just wanted to address that. I am Babs, I don't have my laptop. I am going to find this list of committee members because I want you to see who they are. You know them. These are people that we know in our community. And I think that the only way we can get our politics to be better is by understanding. All right, here we go. By understanding that how this works. All right. Finally. All right, here we go. Finally, I got it. Share screen. Share screen. Chrome tab. All right, here it is. So here we go. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. You know, and if you're elected or whatever, this is when you start texting people saying, yo, Sean's at it again. Yes, I am. All right, so this is the Camden County Democratic Committee list. This is the list for the entire county. So you can see that every municipality has one. I know Robert Jakubowski. So we're gonna get to Camden in a minute. I know Frank Philippek Jr. Hey, Frank. So you see that it's divided by male and female. So here is Camden. Angel Fuentes, Curtis Jenkins are the municipal co-chairs. If you want to see a better Democratic Party, you talk to Angel and Curtis about it. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna, how can I do this? I don't think there's a way to do this. So here you go. Male members, Derek Davis, Kevin Belfort, Arthur Barclay, our former councilman and assemblyman, Brian Morton, Daryl Mack, Gilbert Whip Wilson, our sheriff. You've heard me talk about Gilbert Whip Wilson before. Jose Ramos. Hey, Jose Ramos. I like Jose Ramos. He's a nice guy. Gregory Parks, Luis Quiones, my boy, Valio Leyva Martinez, Jasper K. Muhammad. He's cut my hair once or twice. Samir Nichols, the man with the jacket. Francisco Frank Moran, the mayor. Angel Fuentes, Chris Collins, Jose Martinez. Female members at large. Sheila Roberts, Noemi Soria Perez, Wanda Garcia. There are a few Wanda Garcias, but that's Wanda Garcia. Natalie Caldwell, Olufunmola Ada Deji, Marilyn Torres, our elected councilwoman. Sheila Davis, our elected councilwoman. Ashley Estevez Perez, next generation of fantastic leaders in our city. Deborah Posen Polk, former councilwoman, East Camden, commissioner for the Housing Authority. Martha Wilson, God bless her soul. She's no longer with us, but she was elected to the committee. Catherine Blackshear, former president of the school board and former employee of the Housing Authority. Erin Crean, my old coworker. Ebony Sherrod, also known as Sister Nora. She got that in there. Jasenia Cruz, Linda Thomas, Patience Rivers. I don't know some of these people. All right, Ward 1. So you have the at-large folks, and then each ward has some folks. Brian Stewart, Gilbert Hardin, Joseph Rivers, Stephen Lee. Stephen Lee has no business being elected to anything. He has no business being elected to anything. It's a shame to see his name on this list. If you want to know why, inbox me, I'll tell you. Susan Dunbar Bay, former school board president. Sally Harvey, Stephanie Callbreath, Shanika Boucher, my friend, council person. Ward 2, James Henderson, former councilman Brian Coleman, Chase Street. Larry Gilliams, former school board member. Delbert Nelson over there in Parkside. Female members in Ward 2. Kathy Thomas, Arlethea Lawson, Brenda Fraction, Caroline Brumel. All right, Camden City Ward 3, Luis Miranda, Luis Rivera, my friend and frequent viewer, Felix Moliere, and Andres Camacho. Female members, 3rd Ward, Yvette Moran, that's the wife of the mayor. Maria Sharma. Maria is a commissioner on the Camden Redevelopment Agency. Marisol Ramirez, Mary Espinal. All right, Ward 4, we're almost finished here. Jose Bueno Burrito, Osvaldo Camacho, Luis Lopez, that's the former councilman. Ian Leonard, Ian Leonard is the sergeant at arms, and he raises most of the money for the Kansas City Democratic Committee. Felicia Reyes Morton, the councilwoman. Carmen Otero just resigned from the school board and mother of Carmen Rodriguez. Karen Merrick just elected to the Camden School Board, and we're going to close that out with Alicia Rivera. So these are our committee people in the city of Camden. These are the people, y'all still watching. These are the people who will select who is endorsed to run for mayor in Camden. If you know these people, if they are your friends, if they are your family, they're your neighbors, call them now. Call them this week. Let them know you want to see better politics. Ask them to call for a meeting of the committee so people can get this. Is you want to endorse a great person for mayor. You don't start with a name. You start with characteristics. What do you want to see in your next mayor? Well, I want to see a person who has relationships throughout the city. I want to see a person who's not a racist. I want to see a person who knows how municipal and county and state government works. I want to see a person who can be politically minded yet still work with the team. I want to see a person that has a certain savviness, a certain swag, a certain je ne sais quoi, if I may, huh? I want to see a person who cares about the community, knows a little bit about politics. I want to see a person who has ideas about what to do to address these issues, who can show his or her experience and how they've dealt with these issues in the past. That's what I want to see, right? That's what you want to see. Yes, maybe not. I think so. But if you want to see a better city, you got to have better politics. You want to see better politics, you got to have better people involved in these politics. People who are not going to say that George Norcross, whose name is not on this list, is somehow at the top of the order of who gets to be selected as candidates. I've said this before. I know George Norcross, at least in a somewhat casual, professional way. I've had conversations with this man. I've spent time with this man. I don't have a personal issue or a vendetta against George. I don't. He's a businessman. He runs the company. He's the chairman of Cooper Hospital. He has a role in Camden politics, but his role is no different than whoever the chairman of Virtua is. His role should be no different than the CEO of Haltech or the CEO of Webimax or the CEO of the 76ers or the CEO of Campbell Soup. You don't see these people inserting themselves into politics in Camden? And I know that he wants to see a better city. And the vision that he might have for a better city may be different than what my vision of a better city is. But he's not better than anybody else. Angel and Curtis are the co-chairs of the city's Democratic Party, and they should be the leaders of calling meetings of the Democratic Party to determine who will run for mayor, who will run for council, who will be endorsed by the party. This is the way the system works. It's not a great system. I wouldn't design it this way, but this is the way the system works. It doesn't work with a dictatorship of 2 or 3 people handpicking who the next mayor is going to be, and then telling everybody else to get on board. If you don't get on board, we're going to threaten your job. We're going to threaten your position. We're going to spread rumors about you. That's not the way that it should work. And that's why people don't like getting involved in politics, because they have a sense that this is what's going on. And then when they find out it is, they just walk away. They don't embrace this, because what's there to embrace? This should be the city of social mobility, a fancy term that's a very simple definition. Social mobility is your ability to climb the financial ladder. In America, if you're born poor, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that you're going to die poor. And that should not be our narrative in a city like Camden. Being born in Camden should not be a death sentence. Being born in Camden should not be a sentence of poverty. Being born in Camden should not be an instance that makes you want to get out of Camden. Somebody told me once they complained to a politician about something, and he said in response, "We don't like it, get out of the city." What? Get out of the city? No, let's fix it. Let's stay here and fix it. Because there's nothing, and this is I'm paraphrasing an old Bill Clinton quote. There's nothing wrong with Camden that can't be fixed with what's right with Camden. And there's so much that's right with our city. You saw this in the holiday special. Look how talented we are, not just in the arts, but with technology, with systems. When you give us the bare minimum, and we can make something amazing happen from it. We must have better politics. These are decent people who have found themselves in a very peculiar situation where it's sometimes too hard to make good things happen. This is what happens when the county runs many of the things that happen in our city, including our police department. This is what happens when the city is relying on state aid, giving a state monitor, Tina Vignali, way more power than any person that works out of Trenton should have in the municipality. This is what happens when you have 15% voter turnout in a city, where most young people are completely turned off by politics. This is what a city looks like. It looks like every week we're crying over somebody dying from COVID because we couldn't get our acts together and put our mask on and stay in the damn house. This is what happens in a city where some of the basic information of what we could do to connect people to resources, you have to figure it out in an email. Somebody you know has to happen to tell you. Where are the big ideas? We should have universal Wi-Fi in Camden. This is something that we were talking about 10 years ago. Ray Lamboy, when he was on the school board, brought this to our attention 10 years ago when I was on the school board. Universal Wi-Fi. And now in the pandemic, we've had people scrambling to figure out how we're going to get all these young people, 18,000 children, access to internet for those that don't have it. We got to do better. I'm committed to doing better. My whole January 1st was about me connecting my project management software to my calendar so I could be more efficient. Scheduling time with clients to help put more money in their pockets for their businesses. Figuring out what's going on with the pandemic relief with money to make sure that as a grant writer, I'm able to get more money into more organizations' pockets. Recruiting a team of people to help me with this work because it's too much for me to run my business effectively. I looked at my mistakes. I see my sins and my flaws, and I'm trying to address it. We all must do that first ourselves and our families and our communities. That's the way it goes. This is the way it goes. Remember that list. You're going to have to go back and watch that video. And I'm sorry, and I know people's home addresses was on there, and that might make you uncomfortable, but you are a public official, and that is a public record. At any given time, there are multiple ways for me to see your information anyway. That's the day and age it is. People deserve to know who is on their committee and who's going to select their leaders. We have to do better. That is my wish, my desire for 2021. I'm going to try my best to get to DC for the inauguration. I'm going to do my best to interview every single person that thinks he or she deserves to run for mayor or council. I'm going to do my best to have conversations with some of these people and tell them, look, if you want me to be nicer on Urban Disruptors Weekly Wrap-Up, do nice things. Give me something good to talk about. Can we talk about economic development? Can we talk about housing? Can we talk about what the city is doing about drug addiction? Can we? Can you give me something positive from a policy perspective to mention? That's what my degree is in. I have a master's in public policy because that's what I do. By trade, I'm a policy analyst. What policy can I analyze right now that's not going to depress me and all the viewers that are watching it? I love this community and want to see it get better. And I'm finding my way and how to participate in order to do that, and doing my best to not insert my ego and my disagreements with certain people in that process. Let's let this be about how we lift people up. Let's let this be about how we elect the best people to office. Let's let this be about policy ideas, not broken promises. I got literature from all previous elections. Steve Askew is a great writer. He's a creative man. And he puts these mailings out saying that this is what the Democratic Party represents. Is it? Because too much of what I see looks like it represents corporatism. It represents tax incentives. It represents paving the way for the next corporation to come in the name of jobs where less than 10% of who they hire are from our city. And I don't necessarily blame those corporations for that. They're going to do whatever they can to save the next dollar. I blame us for being lazy, for watching too many episodes of reality TV and not watching enough episodes of the news, to reading too many articles about the latest celebrity gossip and not enough articles about news that Phaedra and Steven and other people write about what's going on right here in our community. We are, as a community, there's some of this blood is on our hands as well. Because people that have power are going to always do their best to hold on to that power. There are very few people who have self-actualized to the point of saying, I've had my power for this point in time, and now I'm going to move on. That's not the way most people look at it. They hold on to power. They protect their power. And as I've said to some people, including some of you that are watching this right now, how come every time I'm in a conversation about policy in Camden, the conversation within a minute goes to power? Who said what? Who's going to be in this seat? Who's going to get appointed there? Who's going to run for that office? We got to do better. What are you going to do better? How can you had your vote plan for 2020, right? You knew that how you're going to vote by mail. You knew whether you're going to vote like mail it in, if you're going to where you're going to drop it off in a post box, if you dropped it off in a box, if you showed it through provisional election day, you had a plan. What is your plan to have better politics in our city? Are you going to attend city council meetings? Are you going to call your council people up? Are you going to post this show? What are you going to do? Because you better do something. We cannot have another year of death, of addiction. Look at some of these young people, some of the people that died this year. Not everybody that died this year died from COVID. People died of suicide. People died of overdosing. These are all products of poverty. Even if the individual, him or herself, are not poor, all of us are impacted by this in this community. It drags us down into pits that we don't have the tools to crawl out of ourselves, that we must have tools that are in part established by our government, by our nonprofit sector, our private sector, and our own collective creativity. There are people who, for some reason, are hanging on and watching this, and I appreciate this. I deeply do. Because that lets me know that there are people who do care. There are people who are paying attention. There are people who can say, you know what? That guy, he gave a good speech. But there's something, I need to ask some follow-up questions. This dude over here, he might be annoying, but you know what? He has something, he's saying something of value. You know what? Biden said this thing over here and it wasn't true, but that doesn't mean I can't believe everything that she says. It means maybe I should listen to everything she says with a grain of salt, just like anybody else, whether it's a pastor or a politician. You know, Frank Moran, he messed up on this issue, but you know, he's doing a great job with this and we should recognize him for that. None of us are purely good and none of us are purely bad. All of us have good and bad in what we do. All of us have to get our egos checked from time to time. All of us are trying to figure out our way. But there is a standard. There is a baseline of what we should and should not accept. And we are not meeting it on many of the agencies and departments in our community. And I don't believe there is a debate to that issue. Maybe there is, and I'm just not seeing it. If I have a blind spot, put it in the comments. Text me. You text me, I won't say who it is. You text me and let me know who it is. You have my number. Inbox me if you don't have my number. If I'm getting something wrong here. And I'm serious. If there's something about Camden politics that I don't understand, even though I've been paying attention to this stuff for 20 years, let me know. Since Milton Milan was mayor, I've been paying attention. I was at his federal court case. Gwen Faison, 2 terms. I knew her staff. I knew the mayor. Dana Red, 2 terms. I knew her staff. I knew the mayor. Frank Moran, I know the mayor. I know his staff. I talked to all of these people. Every single council person. I read every article that comes out. I don't talk about it all on my show. I read every article. I've been doing this for years. And I am pleading with this community that we must improve the way we participate in politics and take our role as citizens more serious than we do. I'm gonna leave it at that. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you being here with me for a year. I've gotten a lot right. I've gotten some things wrong. It's a continuous process to get better and better. Please continue to share. Please continue to watch. Go back in case you missed something. Maybe I said something that's inspirational, that's helpful. There will be new opportunities for people to apply for funding or money for whatever it is that they're doing. I ask that you participate in that and watch the show to learn more about it. There will be some new technologies that we'll be able to unveil. So have a happy new year. Have a great January. Pray for me. I will pray for you. Meditate, drink water, eat some healthy fruits and vegetables, wear your mask, keep your social distance, do your own research on the virus, on the vaccine to see what your role to make sure whatever your views are, it's based off of science and not emotion. Care for your children. If you don't have children, be a good aunt or uncle to those that do. Check on your loved ones, check on those that might be sad, and have a great year. Stay in contact. Kelly Anderson Wilkerson, thank you for being a viewer and for your comments. I am well over my time. Wow, did I talk. I'm well over my time. Thank you for hanging in there. I appreciate it. Have a great day. I'll see you next Sunday, if not sooner.